Testing 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of One Handy Guy. Once again, we're doing this live streaming, so there's going to be mistakes along the way. I'm trying to get a little more comfortable with this as I go, but anyway, in this episode, I'm going to try and go into Fusion 360 and design a welding fixture table square that I can use to weld up corners. And seen a lot of different designs out there, just nothing I really like. And then we're going to cut it out with our Langmuir Crossfire Pro. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Anyway, just to give you an idea, this is the best picture I could find. It's not really a good picture, but of what I was looking for to build. I want it to be more flat, where it's only got one lip coming up that I can clamp onto, and then instead of all these big half rounds, I want to do 11/16" holes, which will match my table. And we'll just go about our process, see what we can do to build this thing. So hang with me and let's get this process started. One of the things I wanted to show you, one of the things that I'm trying to do with this, you can see here on the table, these are some of the pins I bought from Build Pro on Amazon. They're not too awful much money, but they're a neat little tool. You can see they got ball bearings right here, and when you pull this down, the ball bearings poke out, which holds it into the holes in the table. So you can see if I pop it down in there and tighten it up, it won't come out. Only issue is we got about a 5/8 inch gap right here, which if I'm going to build my square, I would need to be using 5/8 inch steel, and I don't have any. So I'm going to use 2 pieces of 3/8, which will get me closer to 3/4 inch and allow it to clamp a little better. And we'll just weld the 2 plates together and create edges around it and see what we can do to do this. So just hang with me. We're going to go ahead and open Fusion 360 and try and get this design process going. So, all right, I've already opened Fusion 360 and we're going to create a new design here. So anytime you want to create a new design, just go over here to create sketch, and then we always click in this quadrant right here. So you don't want to be in this quadrant. Really, these are only 2 options, but we don't want to be there. We're not doing a 3D. This is just a 2D cutout. So we're going to pick this quadrant, and it takes us where we want to do. So the first thing we want to do, I've measured my steel and it's about 9.5 inches, about 10 inches wide. So we're going to make our square 9 inches, make sure we got adequate room to do this. So we're just going to make a 9 by 9 square. Start that way. So all we got to do is hit the square symbol up there, type in 9 inches, tab over and hit 9 inches here, and we've got a square. So that's fairly simple. I'm going to bring this in a little closer. The next thing I want to do, since I want all my holes to be 2 inches on center, we're going to go ahead and just create a hole and then just copy it across up and down. So we're going to create a circle. Let's just start down here in the corner. And we're going to make this circle 5/8, and I'll try and explain later why I'm doing that instead of the 11/16. We'll try and get into that, and I'll go back over that when we're actually in the manufacturing process to try and explain why I did that. But hopefully it'll make sense here in a minute. Let's go ahead and bring that in just a little bit more, get a little more meat around it. That's probably a good place to start. Now what we want to do is create a rectangular pattern. All right, the object right here that we want to select is this one. So we're going to do that, and we're going to put them on 2-inch centers. So every 2 inches. And then all we got to do is just drag this across. And make sure we're on 2-inch centers. Now wait a minute, that's 2 inches. We want to go 2 inches center to center. So that would be 4 inches if I'm not correct. If I'm correct, and that would make sense. That should put a center to center 4 inches. And then let's just keep adding 2. May have to come back and fix that. Let's just see what we got here. The total distance 7.5. We've got 7 inches. Now that's not going to work because when I change that back, we're going to have to go back 1, maybe 2. Let's try that. I don't know if it gives us an option anywhere here. Well, let's just play with it for a minute and see what we can do. So I'm going to have to expand this out a little bit where I can see my measuring tool. Let's see what we got right now. Center to center. We want to be 2 inches. So we may have to modify that. Tell you what, let's just do this the easy way. Let's just delete this and start over. As you can see, I'm not an expert in this. I'm learning here along with you guys, so you're going to find out that it's just a fairly complex process sometimes. Let's go to window selection. We're just going to delete all of these and let's try it again. Let's go back, create our first one. We know we want it to be 5/8 of an inch. And then let's just copy them across. And we'll make sure we put each one on 2 inches. I'm sure there's a lot of Fusion 360 experts out there that can do a much better job. But it is what it is. So we're just going to copy it, create a copy, and let's make that 2 inches. That looks a little more like it. Let's double check it before we move on. And there we go. We got it. Okay, so let's create a few more. Let's just do that. Move copy, create a copy, drag it across again, 2 inches. We created a copy, we should be good. It looks like we have to do them both, so let's try that. Okay, and that looks to be probably all we're going to get going that way. Now let's see if we can do the same thing going this way. Going to select both of those, hit move copy, create a copy, and we'll drag it to there. All right, so that looks about right. So that's going to give me 4 positions both on the X and Y side to actually lock this square down. So I think that's about what we're looking for. Now let's turn it into a triangle. So I just selected my line tool. Notice you get the little square that pops up that lets you know you're right on it. And then we're going to go down and hit the square tool, double click there, and that finishes the line there. So at this point we want to turn around and get rid of the other half of our square. And now we have a triangle that has all these holes where we'll be able to lock this down. So I think that's going to turn out pretty good. I think I've got adequate room to weld onto. We should be all good here. So that's really all we need to create our square. We're going to have some just flat metal that we're going to weld to the sides here. That gives us clamping room, and that should work great. So we're just going to save this, and we'll call it a fixture table square, and click save. All right, now we're going to get back to why I've got 11/16 holes, but I'm only making a 5/18 inch cutout. So let's move on to the manufacturing side where we can get our G code. We're going to click on manufacture. All right. The first thing we got to do is do our setup. So we always want to notice it's over here on stock point. We want to put it to the bottom left corner, and that's where we're going to be cutting from. The machine, I'm using the Razor Weld 45. And we're going to select that machine. All right, and our sketch is here. That's our fixture table square. That's all, the only 3 things I've got to do in that part. So we're going to click OK. And you notice we got a green check mark that says we're good. All right, next process is going to the cutting stage. So we're going to go down here to our cutting side. We're going to have to, since we're going to be cutting this out of 3/8 inch steel, we're going to have to cut our feed rate way down. And I've experimented a lot with this. On 3/8 inch steel, I want to stay somewhere around 20 to 25 inches per minute. So we're going to change this and go to 25. And that ought to work about right. So that's about the speed that we want the torch running. we got to pick our machine again, so we're going with the razor weld. Whoop, changed it back. You got to watch what happens sometimes when you make one change, it affects something else. So let's go back to 25. Right, we're good there. Let's select the geometry, in other words, what we're going to cut. We'll click here on models, right here. Keep going till you get sketches, and then you'll see the actual design. That's our sketch. We're going to click that. And let's see if we can blow this up where you can see what's going on. So you can see there's my lines and here's my cut. And it's going to try, if you go through this process here, we don't ever have to worry about heights because we have torch height control on our Crossfire Pro. But we want to go right here and look at some of these settings. We got our tolerance 0.0004, that's negligible. Our sideways compensation, which means we're going right through the center of the line, which is going to actually extend the curve on the plasma cutter on this particular machine is a little over a 16th. In fact, it's pretty close to an 1/8. So as we cut that, it's going to overlap and make that hole just a little bit larger, which is where it's going to end up real close to 11/16. So that's what I wanted to get to show you is how we have our sideways compensation set. The other thing you'll notice, I don't put a lead-in radius. If I put a lead-in radius, it will typically start here and then it will recognize the curve and keep it on the inside. Only issue with that is half the time it works and half the time it doesn't. So I just stopped doing that, chose to go with a 0-inch lead-in radius, which means when that torch drops down, it's going to hit dead center on one of my lines, which again is going to expand that 5/8 inch out to about 11/16. All right. Our lead-in distance, again, set that at 0. Our pierce clearance, once again, set that at 0. That should fix anything you've got. You just have to understand whenever it makes that cut, it's going to be just a little bit bigger, about a 32nd than what you've actually gone. But if you take a 32nd on one side of the circle and a 32nd on the other, that's about a 16th. So you take a 5/8 inch and add a 16th to it, and we've got our 11/16. All right, so I got everything set. All I got to do is hit OK. I got a check mark there. My last process is to create the G code. I go up here to NC program. NC just stands for numerical control, so that's our G code. So we've got our design, we've manufactured it, and now we got to set it up so it can tell the plasma cutter what to do. So we go here, and we're going to call this our fixture table square, and I'm going to put the inches per minute on that, so I know that when I look at that, I know I'm cutting it out of 3/8 inch steel. All right, I want to make sure where this is going, so I'm going to go here to my NC files on my desktop, and that's where I want to save it. So everything's set, we're in inches. We should all be good to go. Incidentally, these are some of your post process. When you set up your post at the very beginning, if you go to Langmuir, you can actually download the post for fire control, and that's where you get all these. Your cut height, your torch height, that's 0.063, so that's about a 1/16 of an inch that it's cutting away from the steel. It tells you what your spring back is, so when it pops back up. Your pierce delay in seconds is a 1/2 second. That's when the torch starts where it actually goes through, and you can alter that depending on what you happen to be cutting. And then the pierce height is 0.15. So this is the delay, this is the height. So when it gets to about 1/8 of an inch, it's going to start to pierce, and it's going to take about a 1/2 second for it to pierce that. All right, you also got a retract height of 1 inch, so that enables it when you cut a piece and it falls into the water on a water table, As long as it's not sticking up over an inch, your torch head will miss that as it continues to cut. All right, so now we're going to hit post, and you'll see that it created our G code, and this is actually what's going to make the machine cut. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. In our next episode, we're going to cut this out, we're going to clean it up, and then in our third episode, we'll weld it together and give it a try and see how it works. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned, get ready for another episode coming up. Thank you for watching.